SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Midday Super Talk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday, y'all.
Heck dang, yeah, we've made it. A little showers moving through the area, in particular south of our position here. South Mississippi looks like, for the most part, it has been draped with lines of precipitation. Nothing serious, though, I don't think, going on. Honestly, we could use a little rain. It's been a bit dry, a bit parched around these parts. So, but we're all buckled up, ready to go. We got Insurance Commissioner Mike Chaney in the Element Wealth Studio in the next segment, and then in the next hour at 11:20, it's Kelly Bennett, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News. She will, of course, give us an update on all the stories the SuperTalk News Department has been tracking this past week and is looking forward to in the next week. Your money situation, my gosh, what a sell-off we had. What a turnabout we had. 1,000-point swing intraday yesterday. Up, down, and then ultimately closed down. Right now, the Dow up 166 points. The NASDAQ in the red still. This would be 5 days in a row, maybe 6 for the NASDAQ. Investors nervous, I think it's fair to say, about the Fed. And I'm tired of the Fed watching. We got to get back to fundamentals and technicals as the key factors that influence investment decisions, not interest rates from the Fed, because, my gosh, trying to read those guys and figure it out, they're all over the map. Their reports this morning, some of the governors on the Open Market Committee say, yeah, we need to cut rates. And others are saying, no, we need to keep them in place. So the dot plot, as they call it, the sort of charts the attitude, if you will, and the position of those decision makers. It's scattered a bit, I think it's fair to say. But there are increasingly, we're seeing some complaints about the economy. Folks don't feel like, and this is just based on polls and interviews, folks don't feel like that they're seeing things improve. And, of course, the way it works, as you know, is the president is going to get blamed for it. That's the way it works in this country. So the Trump White House, officials in the White House are saying lower prices, more purchasing power, they're coming. Hang on. It's become a political liability. It is for anybody in office. It's just always has been about the economy, front and center. Now, I think it's fair to say that that was a key issue in the 24 elections just a short year ago. But you also have to acknowledge that jumping the shark on the cultural front by the Democrats was a huge factor to many voters. That seems to have simmered down a bit, and now all eyes are on affordability. That's the new word, I guess, in our lexicon that is being batted about at all levels of government. So officials in the Trump administration, they started out kind of downplaying inflation now, and they were also facing the warnings about a recession. And I don't think that's in the cards, but they're promising that we should see progress in the coming year. And I'll just point out again, we're not going back to 2019 prices. Are there commodities that trade up and down, and that, of course, affects the price we pay at the retail level? Absolutely. Gas, that would be the most visible, and it's kind of hanging in there where it is. It's dropped about 12% since the president was elected, on average across the country. But I don't think we're going to see a $1.50 or $2 level anytime soon. I think the two handle is certainly possible. And in Mississippi, where gas is the cheapest in the nation, I don't think I see any three handles out there, Rhino. It's all $2 and change, right? So, but it's kind of steady at that point, and we report the price per barrel on this program almost every day. It is down today, for what it's worth, to about $58. So that's below that $60 mark. You know, the oil and gas folks will say, once you get to about 55, we can't make any money. They're not making a whole lot right now at the current level. And contrary to, I think, what's commonly believed, they really don't control that price. I'm talking about big oil. They control it from the perspective of the amount they produce, but they don't set the price. Just, Rhino, as Andy Berry with the Beef Council here in Mississippi pointed out to us, I mean, something we know, but it's good to always get that out there and remind the audience. The guys that make these cows, that raise these cows, the cattle that is used to produce the beef we all consume, they don't set the price. Now, it is true that after he explained the rather involved supply chain, more so than I had thought, honestly, before he shared that with us, and appreciate Senator Andy Berry for doing that. Yeah, it's true that the meat processors have some control over that, but largely it's a function of demand and supply. I mean, it is really subject to the basic rule of economics. So that's what's going on. Now, of course, last week the president signed an executive order lifting reciprocal tariffs on coffee, tea, beef, fruits, juices, nuts, spices. So that could have a bearing on prices and bring it down. But I'm not getting the feeling that most people feel like, yeah, over the last 10, 11 months, I've seen my situation improve from a household perspective. I don't think I'm hearing a lot about that. I don't know that it's gotten worse. Some may say, yeah, things have gotten worse. I've noticed this week, stuff I buy on a regular basis has gone up. This week, an example, breakfast. I won't mention the restaurant, but I had breakfast in a local restaurant. And from last week to this week, the same thing I ordered is up about 10%. So are other folks experiencing this as well? I mean, they're certainly not obligated to go make a big public announcement. We're going up on an omelet. They don't have to do that. But I just found that interesting. I'm not sure what's driving that. Are you experiencing that on things you regularly purchase, that stuff's going up, down, staying the same?
It's pretty much the same it's been for about the last 2 years at this point for the majority of stuff I buy.
Okay. Got you. Ricky in Aberdeen says 12-ounce can of Del Monte green beans, $2.22 a can at major retailers. So what does that mean exactly, Ricky? Because I'll have to admit, my wife does that kind of shopping. I do other kinds of shopping. Is that up, down, high?
That would be a little up, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Because, Del Monte, I think the last time I bought Del Monte was at Kroger, and it was like $1.50.
Right. On the C Spire text line, prices cannot go down with wages going up. Not true. Absolutely can. It's all a function of other inputs of productivity. I get what you're saying, at the cost of labor. But see, here's the thing. The only way we're going to get ahead of the inflation is for wages to go up. So you want to see real wages to go up and inflation stay in check. How do you do that? Well, you continue to increase those real wages, but you produce more. It's a function of supply. And as much as we talk about health care on this program, the one thing that doesn't seem to come up much is that's a demand and supply problem more than anything else. We don't live particularly healthy lifestyles, thus we need more medical treatment, and there ain't enough health care services to accommodate, and that jacks the price up. Mike Chaney, the Commissioner of Insurance, is next.
Hey, this is Bob.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Gerard Gibert. Going beyond the headlines, breaking down the stories that matter to Mississippi. Middays with Gerard on SuperTalk Mississippi.
It's Friday, I'm free again. I got my motor running for a wild weekend. It's Friday, I'm out of control. Forget the working blues and let the good time roll. I got a little sugar bean.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Thanks so much for joining us. Final day of what has been a long but fun week. It's our pleasure to welcome now Mike Chaney. He is the Commissioner of the Mississippi Insurance Department, also serves as the State Fire Marshal. Commissioner Chaney, always good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you, Gerard, for having me on this Friday morning.
All right, so insurance has gotten a lot of attention across the country lately because we are seeing insurance rates, it certainly appears, all categories of insurance seem to be increasing in price. What's going on there?
Well, it looks like all categories are increasing in price, but I recently announced last week at the disaster conference on the Gulf Coast. By the way, we had almost 400 people at that conference. It was big. 4 states were involved. But I announced that we had almost 1 million policies that will see reductions between 5 and 9%. One of those biggest reductions is a 9% by State Farm. They're going to come out with a public announcement probably Monday or Tuesday of next week. But that's a pretty big cut. But as I said to them, that's great that you're doing the cut, but that doesn't mean you're going to raise your homeowners rates. So, we always look at it. When you're a regulator, you got to look at all the cause and effect of what they're doing. But rates are up. Homeowner rates are up simply because most states, like Mississippi, require that you reappraise property values, and when property values go up, the insurance companies are just as greedy as anybody else, and they're going to say, "You said that?" And I said, "Yeah, I said it," because it's all about how much money they can make.
Okay.
And the deal is that with that increase by the property taxes, they go out and do data mining, and they raise your rates based on replacement costs, and replacement costs is a big driver. I don't regulate that. So I did get we got a call from Roger Worker's office day before yesterday at 4:40 in the afternoon, and David called me. I was on my way home, stuck in the traffic. He said, "What do you want to know?" I said, "Join in with a letter. If he needs a letter, we'll get one." I got one out of Farm Bureau, by the way, yesterday, too. I'm talking with them earlier this morning, as you know. And what it says is that mortgage holders can't make you reinsure at replacement cost. that we trying to give some relief to say to the mortgage people, you need to protect your assets, but you should only charge for what they owe you.
Yeah.
And what that means is about a 60% reduction in the homeowner insurance rates.
Okay.
And that's a big deal. We've been trying to get companies to write what we call actual cash value plus 50%. If you got a lot of seniors like myself, we may have a $500,000 home. I say that some do because they've lived there for 30 years and the home value has gone up. But if the house burned, they're not going to rebuild at that same standard. They may be rebuilt at a lower standard. So they should have a choice as to what they want to cover. And the second thing about a senior is most of them on fixed income. And I will tell you, most of our complaints today are about people on fixed income that are over 65 and said, my rates keep going up, and utilities go up, food's going up, health care is out of sight. The Medicare plans that we have don't cover my hospitals. What should I do? So as an insurance commissioner, you try to help that consumer. That's my real job in the state of Mississippi, is protecting the citizens of the state.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to hear. But, yeah, that I didn't know that. The idea that a mortgage company would stipulate that you've got to insure your property for replacement costs, that seems unreasonable.
But most of them don't. But what happens is that they use that insurance as a profit center. We call that lender-placed insurance or forced-placed insurance. It depends on how you want to look at it.
Okay.
And most of that is funded by an escrow account that the consumer's pay on the mortgage. They got an escrow account for the insurance and taxes.
Okay.
So we try to look at an alternative for the consumers. And when we get calls, 99% of the time we can help somebody out and save money.
Okay. Because I know my personal situation, mine went up. And I didn't change anything, just the insurance company, the carrier just basically came out and said that, your roof is too old. That was one of the things. Are you hearing this a lot,
We hear it all the time. If
this
your
is
roof's
crazy.
Over 15 years old, we're not going to insure them. And I've changed my insurance carrier, which I've had for 20 years. I'm a Vietnam vet, and they've been after me to go to USAA. I went to them, and I don't mind saying this over there. I saved a little over $9,000 on a house, a lake house, and 3 cars. And one of the cars I don't drive is just to pick up its parked. That's a lot of money, but it tells you the difference. If you shop around and you talk to carriers, you can usually get a better deal.
Okay.
And the reason for that is why is your rates low with somebody you've been with a long time? It's called price optimization, and we caught one of the major companies doing this a long time ago. It means we know that the Commissioner of Insurance or Mike Chaney or Gerard Gibert is going to stay with us as an insurer as long as we don't raise his rates too much because he's comfortable with us. He's been with us 20 years.
Yeah.
And finally, there comes a point when you say, enough's enough, quit charging me, I'm going to look around. So.
Well, and did that, and of course, you typically get a discount with the carriers if you'll combine your automobiles, as you know, and your home as well. And so I did that. And between my wife and I, we've had 3 animal strikes in the last 2 years. And
deer?
Yeah, just random. Not far from my neighborhood. And 2 of the carriers said they wouldn't take us because of that.
Well, tell the carriers to get their agents out and shoot the deer, I guess. I don't know. Peter's probably going to get mad about that.
I was a little surprised by that because that's the only claims I've had.
That's a new one on me, but we hear sometimes that rates went up because I live out in the country and get a lot of wildlife.
Yeah. I don't know. That was a bit frustrating. So I was able to work it out with my existing carrier. But I'm sure you're hearing a lot of reports from the public saying, these guys are going up on my rates. I hear it on my text line.
I hear it every day, and the biggest increase is in health care.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk to you mainly about, of course, but I'm getting to that.
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I know you got a break coming up. I haven't heard the music yet, so I'll try to hit this real quick. The ACA rates are what we call the federal marketplace.
Yeah.
That's not the open market. It's the federal marketplace.
Right.
We've got 340,000 people in round numbers that were on that plan this year. It'll probably drop to about 140 next year for tax credits are not put out. So Congress did not renew the tax credits in the big budget bill that we just passed. They did renew the flood program, and that's another issue we ought to talk about. And what that means is that rates in Mississippi on the ACA will go up about 40.9%. And I was really worried about it. Alabama's 20.1% because their basic carrier is Blue Cross Blue Shield in Alabama. Blue Cross Blue Shield in Mississippi is not on the ACA. And in Louisiana, my friend Tim Temple texted me last Friday, and he said, Chaney, you thought you had problems? I just got a 51% increase from Blue Cross on the ACA.
Whoa.
And what that means
Alabama, you said?
No, this is in Louisiana.
Louisiana, okay.
Alabama's 20.1.
Okay.
Louisiana's a little over 50%. Mississippi's 40.9. And here's what we tell folks. 97% of the people that are on the ACA in Mississippi get a subsidy of some sort.
Yep.
And most of them get free insurance. And I don't think it's a big deal if you lose the credits. It's just how do you control the pricing, and the pricing is controlled by what you have to pay out, what we call medical loss ratios.
Sure.
And it's highly complicated, but I think the credits will come back from Washington. If they do, we'll go back to free insurance for about 97% of the people.
So hold on a second there, Commissioner. That would mean that 97% of the people enrolled in the exchanges in Mississippi have a household income less than 150% of the federal poverty level. Is that right?
That's basically right, and that's scary. And not all of them get free insurance, but most of them do. And
because that would be 0% premium.
And we'll say, and here's what you got to do: move those people down to the bronze level. It's more out of pocket, but at least you've got insurance. That's one. Number two, they've got to have some skin in the game. I have to be careful how I say this, but I don't think the tax credits are the way to go. We cannot continue to give somebody free everything they want. We just cannot. That model will not work.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, so as you know, what the enhanced subsidies passed under the Biden administration did was it shifted all those percentage caps that are used to calculate the amount of premium that the subscriber would be responsible for. It shifted that up with respect to the income ranges. So the 100 to 150% range went from 2% to 0.
If you got a family of four making $60,000 a year, they're going to pay $30,000 a year for premiums.
Not in the exchanges. You mean just
in the exchanges next year.
Oh, because they're above 400% of the federal poverty level.
No, $60,000, four people.
Okay, we'll talk about that on the other side of the break.
I don't
that math doesn't work. We'll talk about it on the other side of the break. We got Commissioner Mike Chaney in the Element Well studio.
From theseabrook.com, Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We are back in the Element Well studio with Commissioner Mike Chaney. He, of course, runs the Mississippi Department of Insurance. So, it's still a little confused, and we can sort that out later. But in general, a family of four, according to the latest federal poverty guidelines, making $65,000 a year of household income is just slightly above the 200% of federal poverty level, $64,300. And that's actually for 25. I think that's shifting up for 26. So for 26, they'd be in the 200% level. Their premiums should be limited based on that to looking at the current enhanced tax credits to 1.2%. Actually, a little higher than that. It slides up probably around 2%, which would put them at $1,300 a year.
So we don't know if those numbers came from the companies, Gerard, as we talked about it during the break. If they came to us before the enhanced tax credits or before the tax credits that exist today.
I get it.
So if you got a family of 4, the property level 100% is $32,150 during 2025. That'll increase a little bit in 2026, but bottom line is, it's your math is quick in your head. Now, I would just say to the radio audience, don't take Gerard on. He's an accountant. He understands math.
Oh, well, it's
just how you put the spin on it.
Yeah, I know. But the concern, of course, I'm sure, is that the bigger concern for the industry, Commissioner, and just in the state of Mississippi in general, is how many people are going to drop their coverage because of the enhanced subsidies expiring and their premiums going up.
We have some predictions from Kaiser Family Foundation, the old KKL.
I've seen that too, yeah.
And you've seen that. And they're saying that we'll have about 200,000 plus that will go into the uninsured market. That's how many they're predicting would drop their coverage. I'm not sure that number's accurate, because surprisingly we were told Tuesday by several of the carriers, we had a little meeting over it, that those carriers predict that the number will be maybe 100. I'd said, guys, the number we're looking at from just historical data, it's about 140,000 people will stay on the exchange out of 340,000. They agree with that number.
200 drop.
About 200 drop. So I just got these, we use, the radio audience can't see what we're doing, but we do use our little laptops and computers sometime when we're talking on the radio. So you had asked me about the premium base and the total number of policies written. In Mississippi, Blue Cross either writes or controls 868,000 individuals in the market. Ambetter controls 190,000, but when you look at how that premium base goes out, Ambetter's share of the market in 2024 is $1.4 billion and 1.463. Mm-hmm. So Blue Cross's market share was 1,460,732. So they're about $3 million less than Ambetter.
Okay.
So Ambetter is the largest writer. Cigna is the third. United Healthcare is number 4. Molina is number 5. And it goes on down the road from that.
But do you have it broken down by the group and the individual market?
No, I don't have that on the phone, but we do. Yeah, we do have that by
because
small group.
Because the vast majority of Blue Cross's policies are in the group market.
Well, the large group for Blue Cross is almost $900 million, and the small group's $400 million. So you can see real roughly just about all of theirs are in small group and large group.
That's what
who
they
they're
after.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to. I'll send this to you now, and you can look at it later. But what the listening public probably wants to know is what I do about my rate, and if it's going up to $2,000 a month, what should I do?
Yeah.
If you're on the ACA, you should look at you should really be looking at a bronze plan. Don't drop your insurance, whatever you do. Don't drop your insurance. So you should look for a bronze plan. You should call your agent if you have an agent. If you don't have one, you can look at the department's website, www.mid.ms.gov, and it's easy to find health care on there. We'll give you a lot of guidance. If you're over 65, I had a guy call me, a good friend of mine, and said, I'm paying $4,000 a month for my wife and I. And I said, my Lord, fellow, you're 78 years old. What the heck's wrong with you? And he said, well, I didn't know that I could get a Part B supplement. I said, I've been telling you that for 20 dead-gum years almost. So we've just saved this guy about $35,000 a year just on himself.
Talking about Medicare in this case, the supplemental plan. Yeah.
And not even if you went to Medicare Advantage, which is not a good policy to go to. It is for very few people.
Yeah.
You'd save a lot more money. So what we tell folks is to shop around. If you don't have an agent, you can go to healthcare.gov. They'll give you some ideas. You can go to our website, and we'll give you some ideas. I just can't. I'm not equipped financially at the department to handle 200,000 phone calls. Wish we could.
So how many? Last I checked, we have about 5 carriers that sell in the marketplace.
We have 5 carriers in the marketplace.
Okay.
And
they've improved their networks as well, have they not?
The networks have been very well. I got an email this morning at 6:32 in the morning from hospital on the Gulf Coast saying, we got to talk to you about the networks that we're getting on the Medicare plans and Medicare Advantage plans specifically. They'll sell you a plan and then drop the networks and drop the drug coverage. And when I leave here, we'll be addressing that this afternoon. That affects North Mississippi and the Gulf Coast.
Okay.
We have very little stroke over Medicare. All I can do is say if they're not solvent, in our words, on surplus, I can pull the charter. That's the only thing I can do. The federal government controls everything else.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm concerned about 200,000 people potentially dropping their coverage and the pressure that would put on the healthcare industry in the state.
So if we have 200,000 people that drop their coverage, what we think will happen, people will use the emergency rooms for uncompensated care. That dribbles on down to what do you do about
then I'm
the
paying for it in my commercial coverage.
So the doctors or the hospitals are going to have to put more pressure on commercial coverage to get more money to keep their doors afloat. Medicaid is dropping some of their coverage.
Yep.
They need about $200,000 just for a deficit this year. I don't see that coming, but I stay away from Medicaid. I have to know a little bit about it. So we're trying to figure out where should we go to try to make certain we don't break the healthcare system in the state and the healthcare providers in the state of Mississippi. That's a big order. You don't see a lot of that coming up in the press or the media.
Well, I mean, I know it's not your area. It's more of an issue for the Hospital Association and those groups, but we need these. I mean, the insurance is no good if we don't have a place to get health care. So.
It's like buying a car and putting it in your garage. You can't use it. If you buy insurance and you can't use it, you don't have networks. And look, Gerard,
it's a huge problem.
This deadgum ambulance bill that they passed 2 years ago.
I know. That's nuts.
It's nuts, and it needs to be repealed.
Agree.
But let me give you one example.
Explain that to the people real quick, Commissioner.
The ambulance bill, the ambulance people came in and said, look, we're not making any money out of Medicare and Medicaid. We need 325% of Medicare rates from the commercial carriers or bill charges, whichever's greater. I said, whichever's greater. So I got all the carriers that I could get together and said, send me your bill charges that you did not pay for 2024 versus your network. The difference was $140-something million. Then we found out that the ambulance people were using that little bill to go back to the cities and the counties that did not have their own ambulance service and say, you got to pay me this because that's what the legislature said you got to have. So now I'm going back. Ambulance people, they're going to jump through loops when they hear this replay. We're coming after you. If you committed fraud, we're going to come after you.
Good. Amen. I'm hearing horror stories about this, Commissioner. I know you are. I'm hearing them just in the public in general. Your office has got to be getting blown up with that.
We had a complaint out of Memphis, Tennessee. Thank goodness it wasn't Blue Cross of Mississippi. It's Blue Cross of Arkansas. They moved a lady who had a broken ankle and had surgery. They moved her 3.9 miles. The bill was $12,000.
That's what I've heard.
You know, if you're an entrepreneur, get into a Medicare Uber service, and you can move that lady for $40 and still make $30 with that 3.9 miles. It is ludicrous what we're saying. And the government has a no surprise bill for air traffic. I think you're about to see that nationwide. They're going to say no more of this stuff. And then the other things we heard from the government of CMS, well, it's not a mandate. And then the Attorney General tells me it is. If it's a mandate, the state's got to pay it. So we'll sort it all out. It's nuts what we're hearing.
I hear you. You got to go, or you can hang around for the final segment?
I'll hang around for the final segment. We're having fun.
We are. We got Commissioner Mike Chaney in the Elephant Well studio. We're coming right back.
This is Andy Gibson.
Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. Super Talk, Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Thanks for joining us. We got Commissioner Mike Chaney. He runs the Mississippi Department of Insurance. He's also the state fire marshal. So this is really called attention to this whole mess we have in healthcare insurance, Commissioner. The government shutdown, the Democrats holding out to extend the enhanced subsidies. And you've been around politics a long time. Once you put something out there and you put these programs in place, these federal assistance programs, it's dang hard to pull them back, isn't it?
It's hard to pull them back, and somebody suddenly gets free everything. They want to keep it being free.
Big time. And you're also aware that their federal government does have, this is part of the ACA, there are limits on out-of-pocket costs on an annual basis, and those steadily increase based on inflation. And that's going up to over $10,000 for an individual next year, right?
Just a tad over $10,000 for an individual, depending on what plan you're on. So
Yeah.
I can't remember the number exact, Gerard, but I think the deductible out of pocket is $10,200 and something dollars.
Yeah.
That's ludicrous.
Nobody can afford that.
So you say, how can that happen? Well, here's what happens. 80% of the people that are buying insurance get more worth out of it than they actually pay in premium.
Sure.
And that model will not work. Insurance is based upon risk within a pool. Now we go on to what we call individual risk, kind of what homeowner insurance is about, like health insurance, and the model won't work. So I think what we're going to see in the long run is either a single payer system, which will break the system, and the government controlling everything. You will not have health care.
Right.
Or we're going to have to go back to the defined benefit plans where you have a cap of $2 million out of pocket. And let me say real briefly that I asked in the health board meeting day before yesterday for the state health board, I said I would like to know, and we can get these numbers, out of every dollar premium, how much goes to transportation, how much goes to drugs. So here's the number. We've talked about ambulances. Well, 5% of the premium base goes to ground transportation or air transportation.
No, okay? It's just in delivery of healthcare services.
Delivery of healthcare services.
Yeah.
And
That's
you know
crazy.
how much actually goes to medical care? Just a tad over 50%.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
I don't know if it's true anymore, but because of tort reform. But there was a time when lawyers had their hand in that kitty a lot too, right?
There were, but now in healthcare, we don't have a lot of lawyers in healthcare. The medical malpractice side of that
changed.
That's changed a great deal. That problem has now shifted over to commercial truck drivers, trucking industry, automobile, ambulances. We ought to just put all these lawyers on retainer and let them get paid and put that into the premium. They don't have to go to court.
That's right.
I didn't say that, but anyway.
But there was a time when a significant amount of the money we were all paying was going to pay lawyers for lawsuits.
And the people that pay it, as I've said publicly, are a smaller and smaller number of people in the middle class. Rich people don't care. They got plenty of money.
Yeah, it's true.
And the poor people don't care because they're getting free stuff. And I say poor at this kind, that's a family of 400,000% of property levels over $100,000.
That's
pretty good income.
It's getting right. But this problem ain't going away. So, Commissioner, has anybody come to you of the carriers and said, hey, we're going to go down on our health care premiums next year? Has that happened yet?
The only one that's happened to is the new plan that we have Farm Bureau developed for their members. And I earlier this morning, you saw me in the hall.
Yeah.
We sent you in the Farm Bureau building. That's where SuperTalk's located.
Yep.
I asked Mike McCormick, who's he's just a super
CEO of the company.
Of the company. This guy is super. Mm-hmm. He said our take-up rate's about 85%.
I saw him in the hall last week. He talked to me about it. Yeah.
He's excited.
Yeah.
And he said, Mike, we've even had people that were paying in the commercial market come to us, and let's say they had high cholesterol and they smoked, and we put an 80% surcharge on them. It's kind of like the old plans called a surcharge.
Yeah.
It's still cheaper than what they can buy in the open market.
All right, so before you go, explain that, because the way he shared it with me, Commissioner, was that it's not insurance. It's a plan, but it's not considered regulated insurance. Is that true?
That's true. So when they came to us and told us what they wanted to do, I said, look, I don't want to regulate you. This is what you need to do is do a plan. A plan is not insurance. It's just what it is. It's a plan. So it's like shared ministries
kind
with
of a
churches.
mutual sort
it's
of
a
deal.
mutual deal.
Yeah.
Everybody's in it together, in the boat together. They all pay the same rates.
So it's not subject to all the ACA insurance regulations?
No, it's not subject to them. And the ACA wanted to come out and say you got to be compliant. We said, no, you don't.
They're going to come after them. The Democrats are going to try to stop that.
The Democrats may try, but we've got some. We know some people at CMS. That's the wave of the future. And they asked me.
That's what I'm thinking.
Where you need to go. You need to go to the free market.
Agree. Commissioner Mike Chaney, runs the Department of Insurance. Appreciate it, Commissioner. Thank you, man.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Gerard.
Fox News Super Talk News is next.
Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday, y'all.
All right, you're going to like the markets because the Dow, I don't know what happened. Something must have happened because the Dow is off to the races, up 660 points, and the NASDAQ up 223. Let's just say that it's fickle. It's volatile and fickle. And, of course, the VIX, the index that measures volatility, tells us that it's volatile. So I have a good feeling, honestly, about the economy, about the market. I do have some concerns about affordability. And we did have a question, by the way. Let's see if I can run it down here. Rhino, that, let's see, I think it was, Jerry in Waynesboro, early on the program. We got the jobs report yesterday, and this is a great question, Jerry, by the way. Please explain the jobs numbers. They were way up, but employment was up too. Is it because people are hunting jobs that were on the sidelines? Yeah, that's actually right. So the way the unemployment rate is calculated, you're considered unemployed if you are looking for a job. So if you're not looking for a job, I hope that makes sense. If you're unemployed and not working, but you're not looking for a job, that is not figured in the calculation. You've and the way they measure it, I don't know how the hell they get this information, but you're submitting resumes. This is the way they determine, are you looking for a job? And literally, how do they count the unemployed? Because think about the calculation. It's the unemployed plus the, it's the employed divided by the unemployed plus the employed. And that's how you calculate the rate. Or the unemployment rate is the opposite. It's the unemployed divided by the sum of the employed and the unemployed. And that's how you end up with a 4.4% rate. But you're only considered unemployed if you're contacting an employer about a job, you're conducting interviews, and you're talking to friends and relatives about, literally, if you say, hey, if you find a job, let me know, you're considered looking for a job. How in the world do they capture that information? This is why I have zero confidence in it, and why the president doesn't have any confidence in it, and terminated, back in July, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And you can also see why yesterday, of course, everybody is celebrating that the jobs created were more than double the expectation. 50,000 was the projection. We got 119,000. But would we be surprised, Rhino, if in a couple of months they say, oh, sorry, it was 40,000. We only missed it. Because it used to be minor amendments after the fact. Now it's like we missed it by 50%. And that's when the president said no more. So I have zero confidence, literally, from the Bureau of Labor Statistics official policy. And I'm looking at it right now. If you're contacting an employer directly or having a job interview, you're contacting a public or private employment agency, you're talking to your friends or relatives, or you're talking to a school or university's employment center about a job, you're considered, that's one of the ways you're considered looking for a job, just by making contact. If you're sending resumes out or filling out applications, you're looking for a job. Placing or answering job advertisements, checking union or professional registers, or some other means of an active job search. You're telling me they can track all that? I'm not buying it. I'm just not. But that's how the unemployment rate is calculated. Great question, Jerry. And so, yes, your point is spot on, that you were on the sidelines, not working, but not looking for a job. Thus, you're not included in the calculation. And then since then, you've said, I think I'm going to go get me a job. I'm going to talk to my next door neighbor about possibilities. Boom, now you're considered unemployed. That's how crazy this is. So maybe more than you wanted, but that's why the numbers are always revised and amended after the fact, often to a significant amount. And then you get to the labor force participation figure. And I've been very vocal in my criticism of that. I think it's meaningless. I don't have any confidence in the way the Bureau of Labor Statistics calculates that. I've shared that belief with statewide leaders, including the lieutenant governor and the speaker of the House, members of the legislature. Guys, don't make any policy based on the labor force participation rate in Mississippi. It's a bogus figure. Find me one person who's ever been called by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because that's how they calculate it. Find me one. I'll wait. And and Rhino, I think I did that with the lieutenant governor sitting right there, and his staff was over here in the corner. People don't know that, but normally the statewide leaders, they'll bring their staff with them on interviews, and often they'll sit in our studio, but outside of the view of our camera. And I remember distinctly looking at the lieutenant governor and then pointing my eyes over to his chief of staff when I asked that question. And the lieutenant governor turned a little red, because I know you talk about this all the time, but have you ever talked to anybody that's ever been called by the BLS? I would encourage you to ask that question standing in front of the entire state Senate. You guys ever heard any constituents tell you, hey, the BLS called me? Go back to your districts and ask them. I don't know do they make it up? Who knows? Nobody knows. The president got suspicious, though, did he not? And he said, we're making a change. And the person he tapped for that role would have been fantastic. But you remember, Rhino, he only stayed like 2 weeks or something, and then he bolted. But sorry to go off on a rant on that, but that data is widely used in all sorts of decisions, public policy decisions at the state and federal level, regulatory decisions made by the faceless bureaucrats that impose all those regulations on us. And then, of course, businesses and the markets. We need good, accurate data. I'm not sure how we get it, certainly not by using the current approach, which is just to call people on the telephone, or in the case of the unemployment rate, it's relying on employers to a great extent to send in all kinds of data, which I'm just not confident is working the way it was intended. Biden administration missed it by almost 1 million, but they lied just before an election, says Jerry in Waynesboro. And I think that there is some suspicion that the BLS is politicized. I know you're shocked at that. Not that that's happening in our government. No. And I always believe that whenever the president talks about draining the swamp, which was a very popular refrain, certainly in his first election cycle, that's what I believe he was talking about. Are these faceless bureaucrats that run our lives way more than the 535 we elect and send to Congress? That's what needs to stop. They have got to be reined in. And good news is there have been some lawsuits that have made their way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has said, yeah, you agencies are getting out over your skis here. So we've had some rulings from the Supreme Court that I think have been pivotal in reining in this overreach at the bureaucracy level, the agency level. I think that's good. I get called every month by the Department of Labor, says Lindy from Gluckstadt. Okay. That's interesting because it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics that actually conducts the surveys. So I'm not sure. So do they call you personally about your personal employment situation, or is this a company situation? That I could believe. So if they're sending out resumes and talking about getting a job, and then a job presents, but they turn it down, what happens? They're still considered in the labor force. That's Brandon from Cleveland asking that question. They're still considered in the labor force and looking for a job. There's just no way that kind of information is captured. Yeah, Jerry in Waynesboro says, do you think the Fed should lower the rate to hold firm due to inflation? Seems the last rate cut actually caused the inflation to rise. I think they should cut. Coming right back with Kelly Bennett in the Element Well studio.
So lonely they could die.
Now it's time for the Bible verse of the day, brought to you by J&R Restaurant Group and Outback Steakhouse in Flowood. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. Philippians 4, verse 11. This has been the Bible verse of the day, brought to you by J&R Restaurant Group and Outback Steakhouse in Flowood. Online at jrrestaurantgroup.com. That's jrrestaurantgroup.com.
Is your company looking to hire? Or are you ready for a career change? Service Specialist is Mississippi's go-to recruiting agency, connecting top talent with top companies for over 50 years. Job seekers, our services are always free and confidential. Employers, you only pay if you hire someone we send. We're local, we're personal, and we're all about the right fit. Visit ServiceSpecialistLTD.com or call 601-573-9242.
Callaway's is everything that's growing green. That's what Callaway's is.
Callaway's is the most complete Christmas store around. We have a large selection of permanent Christmas trees, wreaths, and garlands, all 20% off and more, along with our Christmas ribbons, angels, Santas, water lanterns, and ornaments, all 20% off and more. Callaway's poinsettias and fresh-cut Christmas trees will be arriving the week before Thanksgiving. This is Brent Callaway. Since 1954, Callaway's has been family-owned and operated. Callaway's has a large selection of all your favorite trees, shrubs, and color plants. Don't forget to stop by and visit Callaway's Christmas store. All permanent Christmas trees, wreaths, and garlands, all 20% off and more. Along with our Christmas ribbons, angels, Santas, water lanterns, and ornaments, all 20% off and more. Callaway's Christmas is a family tradition. Callaway's, Bloodstadt on Calhoun Station Parkway, south of Germantown High.
That's what Callaway's is.
Entertain Magic of Lights, presented by WLBD, returns bigger and brighter than ever. Gather the family and create unforgettable memories for everyone with a drive-through of dazzling lights and festive displays, featuring the longest light tunnel in Mississippi. Then, step into the jolly holiday village for sweet treats and magical photos with me, Santa. Catch all the holiday fun at Brandon Amphitheater, November 21st through January 3rd. Tickets available now at magicoflights.com.
An official Sports Talk Mississippi, the Magnolia State's #1 sports show. Get the show wherever you get your podcast.
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays. We are live in the Element Wealth studio. We welcome now Kelly Bennett, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News. What's happening, Kelly?
Morning, guys. Well, I'm pretty excited. We're doing our little Thanksgiving potluck at work today.
Okay.
So, I'm already chomping at the bit to get to, the dessert. I won't lie.
That's
I like
awesome.
dessert.
Love it. Well,
yeah.
Wish I were there to join you for that. Sounds like a lot of fun. All right.
Yeah.
Give us a rundown. The big announcement in Mississippi this week, of course, occurred yesterday with Amazon Web Services in Warren County. They let the world know they're going to spend a little money over there.
This is really big, and we actually had two big economic development stories this week. So I'll start with the Amazon announcement. They're planning to invest $3 billion in Warren County to build a new data center campus. Governor Tate Reeves made the announcement, like you mentioned, this week. This investment is expected to create at least 200 high-paying full-time jobs and support more than 300 additional positions in this region. And this is a region where I hear lawmakers saying, we need a big industry. Where's our industry at? We need the jobs. Well, here you go, guys. So I think this is great news. The investment actually builds on Amazon's previous commitment in Mississippi. In January of 2024, they announced plans to invest at least $10 billion and create 1,000 direct jobs to establish data center campuses in Madison County. Since then, the company's created thousands of indirect jobs through data center construction, the supply chain, and related services. Now, construction on this Vicksburg data center complex is expected to begin in 2026. And then you had a big announcement from Toyota. More cars and more jobs coming to Mississippi with Toyota's latest investment in hybrid vehicles. The auto giant announced Tuesday they're investing $912 million, creating 252 new jobs across 5 manufacturing plants. They're going to be increasing hybrid capacity and bring hybrid electric Corolla sedans into U.S. production. The announcement comes as part of a plan to move some hybrid production from Japan. We've heard a lot of talk from Trump about reshoring. This is an example of that. Toyota Mississippi in Blue Springs is included in the investment. They'll actually become the first U.S. plant to assemble the electrified Corollas. The Blue Springs plant already represents a $1.3 billion investment. They employ 2,400 people. The investment in hybrid vehicles will make for an extra $125 million being invested into operations and employees at the plant outside of Tupelo. So great news. Couple of really big economic development stories.
So really just building on the presence of automobile manufacturer working already in the state of Mississippi with this Toyota announcement. And then now Mississippi being a major participant in this explosion of data center construction and artificial intelligence, we're seeing that spill over into Vicksburg. We already had Madison County, a major AWS announcement there. Lauderdale County for Compass, Rankin County for AVAIO, talking about data centers. So this is all good news, man. These are massive investments, and they're affecting other areas of the state once AWS kind of broke through and made their announcement for Madison County. I think more is coming.
Well, I've heard a lot of talk about how the Memphis area is kind of a hub for a lot of the transportation industries that are moving product through the United States. So it's a great location to get started, and it sounds like they're just building on that and moving a lot of these different companies throughout the state. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we've shown that the permitting process and everything necessary to get shovels in the ground and to get this construction going in Mississippi is pretty easy to work with, and it's been streamlined. And these big companies have figured that out, and the word's getting around. And so they're seeking Mississippi as a place to make these investments. It's just all very positive, good news.
Yeah, I get tickled having lived in Mississippi for over 30 years now. We still get a bum rap in the national press, and you still hear people going, there's no jobs there. Everybody's so backward. Education is horrible. And if you live here and you see all these fantastic developments, you just absolutely know it's not true. And I've heard talk about the secret Mississippi Gulf Coast. I feel like the whole state has these big secrets that people are kind of starting to hear what's going on in Mississippi, and it's really good stuff.
We're dispelling those myths, I would say.
I love it.
And those misconceptions, I think that's what's happening. All right, talk to us about the new education standards.
Yeah, this is it took me a minute to understand this story, Gerard. I was like, what are they doing? What is this all about? Education officials have raised the standard of education success for public schools. So here's what happened. The State Board of Education voted Thursday to move forward with a new A through F performance level cut for the Mississippi statewide accountability system. Now, here's the crux of it. The decision is the result of regulations that standards for student, school, and district performance increase when proficiency rates exceed 75%, or when 65% of schools or districts earn a grade of B or higher. And that happened in 2023. So we're basically raising our education standards. The new criteria will be used to assign grades to schools and districts for the 2025 to 26 school year. The state will not be comparing this year's grades with those of previous school years. So it's a new standard, and it starts from here, basically.
Okay. Well, I think that's good news. We just had a school district taken over, I think placed into receivership, Okolona, but that was a financial issue more than a education performance issue. But that is just something to be aware of. March of Dimes report card. Tell me about that.
Yeah, this is not so great news. Mississippi's already got an active public health emergency in effect over rising infant deaths. This has been made even more urgent following the release of a study showing the state has the highest preterm birth rate in the U.S. The March of Dimes released its annual report card on Monday. Now, the country as a whole only received a D-plus grade. Nearly 380,000 babies were born too soon last year. And Dr. Michael Warren with the March of Dimes crunched the Mississippi numbers.
When we drill down and look at all the states, Mississippi actually gets an F, a failing grade, when it comes to those preterm births. That preterm birth rate in Mississippi is about 15% of babies born preterm. And when you translate that into real numbers, it's over 5,000 babies in Mississippi whose families have to go through that experience.
And, you talked with Insurance Commissioner Mike Chaney. I was listening intently to that because health insurance rates and the ACA subsidies and all that stuff, the prices are going up. And I'm starting to wonder if a lot of this has to do with people not getting care early enough to prevent these premature birth rates because they just can't afford medical insurance.
Well, it's a combination of that and just access to it is what I've been told by healthcare professionals, that we sort of have these deserts of OBGYNs, if you will. They're a long way away. And, yeah, I've heard cases where they'll show up at UMMC in labor in the ER having never seen an OBGYN throughout their pregnancy.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of there are a lot of factors. We could get into that.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, exactly. What about Alcorn in the Macy's parade?
This is so exciting. So more than 50 million viewers will be watching the annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade next week. They'll want to keep an eye out for a Mississippi marching band. The Alcorn State Sounds of Dynamite will be joining in the festivities along the parade route in New York. Director of Bands, Dr. Everson Martin, admits he's been so excited he's barely slept.
I knew I wanted to show us in the best light, and I'm not going to give away what we're going to do because I want everybody to tune in. But yes, there was definitely some preparation put into this, some thought put into this. Myself and my assistant, Mr. Brian Sturden, everybody, the whole team contributed, and the kids bought in. They knew it was going to be a grand stage, so they were excited and pumped up about it. And I think we're going to have a great showing on national television.
Can't wait to see it.
Cool. Real quick, before you go, the Mississippi Lottery Corporation launched a new app. Real quick, what's up?
Yeah, you can't buy tickets on it, but you can scan your ticket, see if you're a winner. It's got a lot of cool stuff on it. You'll want to check it out. And for more on that, just log on to supertalk.fm. All the details are there.
Appreciate it, Kelly. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
From the Seabrook.com.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Bum 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 bum. I feel free. Bum 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 bum. I feel free. Bum 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 bum. I feel free. Bum 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 bum. I feel free.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. Appreciate Kelly Bennett from SuperTalk Mississippi News giving us that rundown. By the way, don't forget to sign up for the SuperTalk Mississippi News newsletter. Comes out every Friday. It's really good, very informative, nice summary, and nice single place to see all the stories the news department is covering and has published, of course. So, and be sure to check my article out at supertalk.fm, just published earlier this week, concerning legalizing mobile sports betting in the state of Mississippi, something that I believe the legislature should do and has attempted to do the last 2 years, Rhino, to no avail down there in the state Senate, despite the Rhino procession carrying the transmitting, I should say, the legislation through the halls there of the Capitol. Still got kiboshed by Senator David Blunt. I believe Pocket vetoed the legislation. He, of course, a Democrat from South Jackson.
Because he thinks he's smarter than you are and knows better than you how to spend your own money.
I really haven't heard his justification for it, honestly. I mean, I hear, as you say, there is a belief by some of the Democrats in the Mississippi legislature that think they have to protect you from making such decisions. And, of course, I think you would agree that anytime the government acts on that basis, it usually harms you. It diminishes your freedoms and opportunities in economic activity, etc. Greg in Newton asks, diesel is steadily going up and why? I haven't looked it up. It's a good question, though, Greg. But here's what I can say. You can almost 99.9% of the time count on any movement in the price of fuel being directly attributed to demand and supply. Again, this is a globally traded commodity that is subject to the laws of demand and supply. I'm going to go out on a limb here before I look it up here and guess that there's probably a supply problem going on with respect to diesel. Might be some diminishing demand because of some of the international economies that are floundering a bit under some pressure. But I suspect what we got are declining inventory. That usually is a factor in the reduction, or the increase, I should say, in fuel. And usually the decline in inventory means we ain't producing it fast enough. And then something we talk about all the time is we used to have limited refining capacity. We're not building any new refineries, so we can go.
That's part of the issue for diesel is since 2020, since the crunch they felt, they had some refineries closed that still haven't opened up globally.
Okay.
And that does have an impact on the market because it is globally traded.
You know, does it not feel like that the stupid pandemic we're still suffering from its impact? Just a lot of bad decisions made by governments across the world, and we're still paying the price for that. The inflation at the end of the day is related to the pandemic. It's not accurate to say that you could lay all that at the feet of Joe Biden. Though, I want to be clear, I've said it many, many times on this program, I think we could have probably had a 5% inflation in 2022, and we got 9% because of his action early in 21. No doubt, in 2020, in President Trump's last year of his first term, that the COVID stuff was crazy, and we were printing money like crazy and injecting that into the economy. And you knew then, eventually this is going to become inflationary. So it lags. There's a lagging period there. And it did. However, just as it's starting to kind of stabilize, Biden has to come along. I mean, I know I've said this many times. And just because of their deep despise of President Trump, had to go do something. And the something they did was stupid and exacerbated the inflation that was already in the cards for us as a result of all the crazy COVID spending. In 2020, $6 trillion to be exact of excess spending attributed to COVID, really excess debt attributed to COVID, about $3 trillion of excess spending, and then the Fed steps in and injects all kind of dollars into the economy. So we ran up about $6 trillion of additional debt that 1 year. You knew that was going to cause inflation. But then Biden comes along just as we're starting to allow that to be absorbed into the economy and says, we can't let Trump get the credit for getting back to normal. Here's you a $2 trillion bill, which is where the enhanced subsidies came from, that ultimately caused the government to shut down. So,
and as it pertains to diesel, you can go back to Obama and his buy-in to the Greenies ideology.
Totally.
With the, ultra low sulfur diesel? Is that the type that got mandated in 2014, which is much more expensive to produce?
Cost a lot more. That's exactly right. And then, look, all you got to do is look at the Solyndra boondoggle. What was that, $600, $700 million or something? That was his buddies he was paying off from the election. I know you're shocked that sort of stuff happens.
It's almost like everything Democrats touch turns to crap. That
was one of the worst ever. Just light a match to that cache, and that produced zero, that whole boondoggle. But, this is the future. Now, some good news. Our friend Ben from Madison, who is an avid listener and a regular communicator on our text line, asked yesterday about our thoughts on nuclear energy. So I did a little research after the show to kind of see what was going on in the country vis-a-vis nuclear energy. Indiana, there's a nuclear energy startup. A startup, now a brand new company, it's got funding, that is establishing a headquarters for a manufacturing operation to manufacture the components of nuclear power plants in Indiana. So, good news, and I think you're going to see more follow suit. Mike Braun, the governor of the great state of Indiana, served in the U.S. Senate prior to that. Saw him on an interview this morning talking about this. And so I do think you're going to see more. Absolutely, 100%. And this is an example. I mean, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have seen a startup nuclear company, right? You'd have had the greenies all over the place. They couldn't even get a shovel in the ground to build a building, probably, for the disruption. So that's what's going on. Big T from Coffeyville says, I feel like insurance prices are out of control. Do y'all feel that way? Well, yeah, they are, but my son, by the way, is in the commercial insurance business, and I was talking to him yesterday, and he was telling me about some of the clients that they're meeting with, the claims they're filing. It's unbelievable. Workers' comp claims. I think I had one in 33 years. Now, I admit, our business, we didn't have a lot of risk for workers' comp. We didn't have a lot of physical-type activity that some businesses do where they're just at higher risk. But that's up considerably in this country. And then just casualty losses as well, also up. And so insurance companies respond by increasing rates. Just simple as that. So Chris from Past Christian says, I believe the insurance companies are going to raise their prices until it's unattainable, that the government has to step in, and then the insurance companies will collect even more money when the government starts paying for it. Well, I hear you, Chris, but that really wouldn't apply to any category of insurance except health insurance. And I have dug into that at quite a deep level. And I know it's feels good maybe and popular to say, yeah, you're only in business because of the government, talking about the health insurers. It's actually not true. It's a relatively small part of their business, except the part of their business where they are managing Medicaid for the states or involved in Medicare supplemental plans. That's actually not paid for by the government. Or Medicare Advantage, and that's not paid for by the government. So the main area where government is directly paying any component of the insurance industry would be in the healthcare industry, and that specifically would be in the marketplaces that we were just talking to Commissioner Mike Chaney. I'll dig into that a little bit on the other side of the break. Final segment, Hour 2 is next.
Up of Mississippi.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Harry Belafonte bumping us into this segment here of Middays. Mike at Richton says, this proves what I've been saying. Insurance is a scheme. The definition of a scheme is an underhanded plan or crafty structure, and that is the very definition of an insurance policy. They do not care about covering you because you constantly run into denials from pre-approvals to any kind of procedures. I hear you, Mike, but I would say this. If the scheme is intended to produce a significant amount of income, they're not very good at it because they're not very profitable. They're just terrible. It's a terrible industry from a profit perspective. They don't make that much money. I'll give you an example. Centene, that's one of the big health insurance companies in the United States that manages the state's Medicaid program. Here's their annual report for 2024. I'm looking at it right now. Their 10K. $163 billion of top-line revenue, net income of $3.3 billion. That's 2%. 2%. That's terrible. That's really pathetic. That's Kroger grocery store margins. So they're not very good. Remember, yesterday we reported NVIDIA made $31 billion in one freaking quarter. That's a $120 billion run rate for this year. I think they're going to do 130 because of the trajectory of their revenue based on the guidance provided by the CEO, Jensen Huang. But they are, let's see, what is that? Put them at 40 times bigger than Centene in terms of net profit, with revenues just barely more than Centene. I'm not apologizing for Centene, a big health insurer. I'm just saying that if it's a scheme, it's not really working because they're not making a lot of money, relatively speaking, at it. Mike in Gulfport said, tell Commissioner Chaney he is appreciated. It's great to know another senior with fire in his belly is out there trying to keep things from getting out of control. I think more of us should be working. I'm able to help these young people every day, and it is rewarding. Thank you also, Gerard. Although you were a youngster, says Mike in Gulfport. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know about that. And I did pass on your sentiments there, Mike, off the air before Mr. Chaney got out of the studio here. What about cash-only health care? What about health care cost sharing? Yeah, sure. There's no mandate. Well, there actually is a mandate that you have insurance, but as you pointed out, Rhino, it's cost you nothing. So effectively, there's no mandate. Nobody's putting a gun to your head and saying you got to go have insurance. Now, that is not true with respect to your vehicle. In Mississippi, you have to have at a minimum liability coverage. And then with respect to homeowners insurance, you don't have to have that unless you have a mortgage. Your mortgage company may require that. They want to insure the asset that they're financing. That makes sense. And they're certainly able to do that. But you don't have to have that. So, yeah, you could pay cash. The issue is, of course, to this person on our C Spire text line that most people, they don't have the cash to pay $100. A lot of people don't. And secondly, any sort of catastrophic medical event, they just don't have it. And so what ends up happening is that the healthcare providers absorb those costs. And they then pass that on in the form of higher premiums for those of us who do have commercial coverage. And then, of course, the taxpayers who provide some relief to providers, hospitals in particular, through the disproportionate share program is what it's called. It just helps them cover the cost of the uninsured and also the losses they incur, frankly, on Medicare and Medicaid. So you heard Commissioner Chaney said, he thinks, he said this before, Rhino, that he thinks we're headed to so-called single payer, which means everybody would have insurance through the government, and the government would be the only payer. We wouldn't have any private insurance companies. I guess for those that are mad about the insurance companies making a profit, they'd be happy in that, okay, well, we don't have insurance companies that would kick us around anymore and generate profit. But it also means we'd all have government supplied health insurance. The bigger issue that doesn't come up is if we transition to a Medicare for All program, which has been the Democrat dream for 40 years, if we transition to that and the government continue to reimburse the health care providers at government rates, You talk about a shortage of healthcare workers. This is exactly why it happens, as you've pointed out. You go into the NHS system in the UK with a broken arm. Yep, X-ray's broke. You need this treatment. Okay, let's do it. Come back in 6 months, right? Well, that's exactly what would happen here because...
Take it that long to get the X-ray.
They probably would to just get the X-ray, right.
Doctor look at it and go, yeah, it's broke. We can't X-ray it, though.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Why not? Well, the one X-ray machine in town is booked for 6 months. Literally, that's what happens. Taking a break for Fox News and SuperTalk News. The final hour of Middays is up next.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday, y'all.
All right, so I did finally figure out what's going on with the Dow and the NASDAQ, both of which have turned around from being down earlier in the session, now up. The Dow up 575. It was up over 700 momentarily, and the NASDAQ up, 167. Some of the Fed governors are saying, yeah, I think I could get on board with a rate cut. So now we went from a 75% chance of a rate cut a short month or so ago. The markets reacted positively to that. Then that fell to 40%, below the 50% mark. And now it's back up to 70%. Boom. That's why markets are responding. And the volatility index, as a result, Rhino went down. Not surprising. So this is, again, just too much Fed watching, in my view. Let's get back to fundamentals. You're probably aware, because I know you track this, the funny money, it's experiencing a sell-off as well.
It's bounced back up from its lows at 80. I think that was kind of the floor.
Yeah, it was. That's right. It's up to 83 right now. So the high that it hit a short month ago or so, right? 124, 125, somewhere in that neighborhood, as I recall.
Yeah, it got up to 126, 279.
Okay, you are tracking it. I love it. My Andy from Pontotoc says, my insurance provider, through my employer, offers free telemedicine services, but can't get prescription filled because doctors aren't from Mississippi. I'm not following you, Andy. Your doctors... Are you not seeing a doctor here? Are you seeing doctors out of state? So I'm not following you. It would be great if my family could take advantage of this option. Help us out, Andy. I'm not quite following you. But
it's been a minute since I was heavily involved in the law there. But
okay.
I'm fairly certain the only prescriptions that you would need an in-state doctor to write would be for controlled substances.
Okay.
If you just had a normal blood pressure medication or cholesterol medication or diabetes medication or thyroid medication or any other, because there's a plethora of medications that aren't controlled. It's a limited list of controlled substances that are sold by pharmacies. So if it's not on that controlled schedule, then you should be able to get a prescription from any licensed physician.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where you could have pharmacies that would be in and out of network, right? I mean,
right.
You'd have where they have agreements, and that's always really the value proposition of insurance. Most people want to know that when they receive medical services, including prescription drugs, that their provider is going to file the claim for those services. You may have a little out of pocket to pay, but in general, it's not a situation where when you're out of network, a lot of times you got to pay up front. You got to go file it and wait. Is the way it works. So let us know on the C-Spire text line. Yeah, he said it's what's a narcotic, Rhino. So maybe that's what you're talking about.
I think that's
right?
a different person. But
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I see
narcotic
that.
is a common street term, or I don't know that it's really
Controlled.
used legally for controlled substances.
Okay. Yeah. I see. Yeah, it is a different person. But
because technically, I'm pretty sure narcotic technically has to be a derivative of the poppy plant.
Okay.
Which a lot of
Interesting.
opiates and opiate derivatives
are. Tim and McGee says, Senator Blunt, and please don't leave out our lieutenant governor on the online gaming. My family, friends, and I have voted for the lieutenant governor for any office he's ever run for. No more for any of us for lieutenant governor. Appreciate you weighing in there, Tim. Thank you. But I will say this. I think we ought to pass mobile sports betting. And I do think the holdup is in the Senate. I think we'll get a bill out of the House again. And it just will come down to what happens in the Senate. Just like school choice, same deal there. Just like the ballot initiative, all these things that we've seen come out of the House, get down to the Senate, and they just die there. There's a graveyard of House bills that get killed down there in the Senate. And I think that's just largely because of the leader of the Senate, the lieutenant governor, doesn't support many of these policies. I think that's fair to say, accurate to say.
It's either that or the vast majority of the Senate just thinks they're smarter than you, better than you, and can do more with what you should be able to do with.
Brandon from Cleveland says, I run 4 trucks, $10,000 a month on diesel. When Trump was at the end of his first term, $40 would fill up 20-gallon tank. Now it's $80. Yeah, and it's, again, just subject to all these factors that we were talking about earlier that figure into the cost of diesel, and that's just a demand and supply matter, just plain and simple. Also, he asked a question earlier, did Brandon. So if they are sending out resumes and talking about getting a job, and then a job presents, but they turn it down, what happens? It's not really included. It's just whatever they say when they call them. Ostensibly call them. Still not convinced they call. But if the person's not going to say, if they even said, yeah, I did get an offer, but I turned it down. If they said, but I'm still looking, they would be considered unemployed, and they would figure in the statistic. If they said, yeah, nothing's come along my way, I'm just giving up, not going to look anymore, well, then they'd be removed from the calculation, is the way it would work. Just based on the very strict definition of what an unemployed individual is. Let's see. Can you get a dollar amount of house insurance, like a house valued at $500,000, but you just want to insure it for $250K? Asked Jerry in Waynesboro. Sure, Jerry, if you don't have a mortgage. So it's the mortgage company that's going to require that you have a sufficient amount of coverage to protect their asset. If you don't have a mortgage, you're not even required to have homeowners insurance. I don't think there's a law that mandates that in Mississippi. Or you could get an amount of insurance that's less than the replacement value as estimated, or even the value of the asset as currently appraised. Absolutely. Larry and Mize, any new Kiffin news? I haven't seen anything, Larry. So I'm not sure. I know that's a big story in the state of Mississippi. Sam from Macomb says, reckon I could get a job over to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It does kind of seem like they don't really do a whole lot because they keep revising all their data. Dean and Tupelo, do they use unemployment benefits paid in their calculations? I don't think that the value of unemployment benefits, no, that's not figured into the. It's not a monetary calculation. It's just an absolute numerical calculation involving people, individuals. Kevin in Monticello says 90% of statistics are made up. I know because I just made that one up. Yeah, so Mose, appreciate you sharing what AI had to say about the market today, and it looks like it's pretty much all related to this news that the Fed seems to be more on board with cutting rates in their next meeting. The president, by the way, is scheduled to meet with Zoran Mamdani, the newly elected mayor of the Big Apple, today. That should be interesting. That's getting a lot of attention. Really something. Well, let's see what else we got. My insurance was canceled because of vines growing on my house, which were a few ivy tendrils and some that I had, I'm not sure, something intentionally, maybe planted intentionally. There were no overhanging branches and really no trees close by. Yeah, it does seem like that they kind of come up with some reasons. It's sort of weird. You have to have 80% of the value insured or they can deny your claim. It's called the co-insurance clause. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And that's, again, a stipulation by the insurance companies. But they seem to be that's on the ceasefire. They seem to be willing to negotiate on that, is what I've been told, or provide. I have experienced personally, actually, or provide coverage. But yeah, they don't want to be on the hook for something like that, where you're trying to sort of skirt some reasonable amount of coverage, face value based on the actual value of the property. Get it? Is it possible that the telephysician is not in Mississippi and is not licensed for the state of Mississippi? That was to the question someone had earlier about their coverage that seemed to cover telemedicine, but maybe that's what they were saying. But it wouldn't cover out-of-state doctors providing telemedicine. So
that shouldn't matter.
That shouldn't matter.
Controlled substance.
Yeah, exactly. I think I agree with you there. So actually, they kind of welcome that because that keeps costs down. Honestly. All right, we're going to step aside for a break right now. We're in the Element Wealth studio wrapping things up on this Friday. Next week, of course, Thanksgiving week. We got to talk about the cost of your Thanksgiving meal next.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. So, Thanksgiving dinner. It is expected to be about 5% lower than last year. And again, number of factors involved in that. Sort of depends on what your Thanksgiving dinner consists of. But turkey's down from last year, 16%. Stuffing, down 9%. Rolls, 14%. Sweet potatoes up, if you happen to indulge in those on your Thanksgiving. 37%, up 37%. Peas, those are also up 17%. So, of course, there's some differences depending on the region, but overall that nets out to, according to industry analysts, a decline of about 5%. So that's certainly some welcome relief. But again, these are, like we said, these are all commodities that are traded, and they're subject to oscillation in price. Unlike some products that just seemingly continuously increase, these are, again, very much subject to demand and supply at any point in time, is the way that works. So the White House also says that Americans should expect a refund of about $1,000 more than last year. I stay kind of perplexed at why so many people get refunds. I certainly understand if you are eligible for various tax credits, like the child tax credit, child care credit, the earned income tax credit, that maybe that's not figured into your withholdings. Although I would encourage you to do so. I don't want the government having my money all year and having to wait for them to send it back to me. I'd rather have that in my pocket and use it and put it to work or spend it. So that's what the White House is predicting, and they're not really giving any details other than they point to an increase in the child tax credit. That's absolutely true. That goes up to $2,200. It was $2,000 before the One Big Beautiful Bill Act was passed, also known as the Families Tax Cut Bill. So I'm not sure where they're coming up with that. And I hope they're right. I'm sure some third parties are doing the ciphering on that, because going out and saying this, folks are probably going to point to that. Remember that. You know, the Democrats are if this doesn't work out. And again, this seems to me like it would only apply to those who actually received a refund last year, since that's what they're saying, that your refund is going up from last year to this year. So that will be interesting to see how it shakes out. But that's what's being reported at this point. Again, we told you earlier that the president is scheduled to meet with Zoran Mondani. That'll be an interesting conversation. That's one of those you'd like to be a fly on the wall. Kind of cool. I just paid 95 cents a pound for my 16-pound turkey in Laurel, which would make sense. Last year was about $1. Okay, great. So that does figure. That's a little lower of a reduction than the nationally what is being predicted and what I guess has been found to be some 16% lower. So that would be a 5% decrease. But nonetheless, it's a reduction, so that's certainly welcome news. Gary from Tishomingo says his insurance was canceled because of break-in and theft years ago. Yeah, that's one of the things. If you start filing claims, or heck, in some cases, file any claim, and they'll cancel you. They just figure you're a high risk, and they get their money from folks who never file claims. Seems a little bit antithetical to what insurance is designed to be. I had the same thing in my commercial coverage. 25 years. Never filed a claim. 25 years. Filed one claim. Canceled. One claim. And commercial coverage in business is expensive, as you know. And I remember calling my lawyer saying, why the heck did they cancel us for this one claim? Oh, they don't want anybody to ever file claims. And this is a major national insurance company, by the way. So that's just the way that industry works. In the healthcare industry, there's so much time and effort spent trying to get approvals for claims. That is consuming a lot of expense and a lot of just administrative cycles just to constantly be dealing with insurance companies for these prior approvals, or sometimes even, as you know, just denials. And they have to go to work on it. And maybe there's some automation and AI that could get involved in this to cut down on some of the expense associated with that. Still, however, because right now it's an intensive manual process of a bunch of reports and phone calls and justifications, and the physicians have to get involved often. And often it's physician to physician talking. Physician for the insurance company, physician that's the doctor for the patient. And it's the doctor for the patient that's justifying, right? This happens all the time. And so rather than that person actually taking care of sick people, they're dealing with insurance companies. And I know it's easy to get mad at the insurance companies in that case, and it aggravates me too. I've had this happen before, and it's aggravating. But on the other hand, you look at their bottom line and say they ain't making any money. So, and you know a lot of that's because for everyone that has to get on the phone and justify a needed procedure or treatment, there are probably 10 that are bogus. The get filed, right? And they pay. We use it too much. Talking to Kelly earlier about our scoring in F. It wasn't infant mortality. It was just live births in general, I think. I don't know exactly.
Premature births.
Okay, premature births, thank you, which is a live birth. But premature births, often the result of lack of good prenatal care, right? Or even could be induced because of poor health habits during the gestation period. I'm not pretending to be a doctor here. I've just asked these questions of friends of mine that are obese, that deliver babies for a living. And they've pointed that out. And so this is a harsh point, but it's real. And I know you know this. If we didn't have that problem, because those are avoidable problems, our insurance wouldn't be so expensive. That's just a fact. And it doesn't matter if it's Medicaid covering it, if it's uninsured, if it's commercial coverage. The fact is, it's a cost burden on the entire system. And for the system to stay solvent, somebody got to pay for it. And if we weren't putting ourselves, I'm talking we as a society overall, in a position to need all this excess, and I call it excess care, because in the case of premature babies, sometimes absolutely you can do everything 100% right and still have a premature birth. But many of these are the direct result of the lack of proper prenatal care, right? And we've had, what's her name, Getty Israel, with Sisters in Birth, I think is the name of the organization. She's talked about it. And hats off to her, because she lambasts the mothers. I mean, she really does. You've heard her say that. Yeah, well, if you quit smoking and drinking and carrying on like you're not even pregnant, we wouldn't have all these dang problems during your pregnancy and increase the probability of a premature birth. And guess what? That's expensive, but the aftermath of that is extremely expensive, and we're all paying for it. Man, I know I probably sound misogynistic and everything else you can dream up, but I'm just telling you the economic fact. And that's it. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
From the Seabrook Doctor. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone. Larry in Maya says he's going to Portland, Maine next week. It's beautiful up there. Any suggestions? I don't have any. Haven't been there in
lobster
10 years, yeah.
About all I could think of when I think of Maine.
Yeah. It's
some lobster.
Big time. CC in Senatobia says it's like insurance companies. They're always looking for reasons to cancel insurance. My mother had an old barn-style garage on the side of her house, and they deemed it a potential hazard. And they were going to cancel her homeowner's insurance, so she wound up having to tear that building down. Yeah, like I said, they're not getting rich doing it. I mean, I'm not saying they're not making money. I'm saying relative to other industries. When you got an industry, health insurance, that generates a 3% net profit in aggregate, all combined, 3%, and the average in the Fortune 500 is 9.8%. NVIDIA, as we talked about, makes 60%. So it's not like an industry you can go get filthy rich in. But I know that people just feel like I keep paying, and I don't ever use it. And when I do, I'm frustrated. I hear you. I had a problem with my house right now that I'm dealing with, and you got a roof that is rated for to last 60 years, and then they say, "Oh, it's 15 years old. Oh, we got to go up on your rates." It's rated for 60. So, but that I can't overemphasize that there's a lot of irresponsibility in our society, and claims get filed, and insurers are on the hook. And what ends up happening, just to be perfectly frank, Rhino, and the same is true in healthcare, is that the irresponsible are funded by the responsible. That's essentially how, when my son was telling me about visiting with a client that had like 25 workers' comp claims in a year, I had 1 in 33. 1. Now, I get it. We're not an industry that had a high risk, but I still paid workers' comp insurance.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Part of this falls squarely on the insurance companies, and it's not the part some people think. It doesn't matter what kind of insurance they are selling you. It could be motorcycle insurance, home insurance, RV insurance, health insurance. You could be talking about the crazy niche insurance celebrities get, like J-Lo on her butt. Every single insurance provider for the last 20, 30 plus years has been trying to sell you on the fact that you're a part of the family. We really care. We want what's best for you. When in reality, you're a number on a spreadsheet. Yeah. And most people can't accept that. They buy into they said I'm a part of the family.
That's absolutely true. I think what makes it super hard relative to other things we buy, if you think about it, you don't get anything for it. Right? It's not like you're at the store and you put your money down and you walk out with something. This you don't. It's peace of mind, and it's just it's not tangible. You don't feel it, touch it, smell it, use it. That's what's hard about it. That's what's so frustrating about it. It's just a crappy business. I mean, it really is. What they sell, it's one of those things where I hate it until I need it. And then I'm appreciative of it. I think most people would say that. But again, this boost in health insurance, this rise in health insurance that we're seeing is just because we're used too much health care. And there ain't enough supply of it. And the cost of it continues to rise. And something I point out regularly, we keep inventing more. Where were GLP drugs? How long have they been around, for example?
I mean, for diabetics, they've been around for almost a decade.
10 years, I'd say. Right, for diabetics.
But as far as weight loss, the off-box use?
Right. 2 years?
Yeah, probably 18 months.
Yeah.
2 years at most.
But now there's all kinds of discussion about should that be covered. And you'd like to think that, well, if you cover it and that helps people contain their weight, then they're less subject to other disease and other problems that cost money. It's just
But then you got to balance the side effects of if you don't follow the rules of taking that medication, you can wind up with some pretty severe problems like liver damage or blindness.
And that's why when you watch the ads, it's about a third of it is, hey, look how great this stuff is with all the beautiful people, and then the other 2/3 is all the disclaimers. That's because of opportunistic lawyers, of course.
But, I mean, if you're looking at it from the insurance perspective, all right, we got a population that refuses to take their thyroid medicine at the same time every day, and that causes complications.
Big time.
They refuse to take all of their antibiotics because they feel better. Do we trust them to take this medication the way it's described and to keep up with themselves the way they're supposed to, or are we going to have to start paying for more medicine when after we paid for the expensive get skinny medicine?
No doubt about it. It's your doctrine, the doctrine, essentially. And that's one of the biggest complaints I hear from my doctor friends, to your point, is that, I prescribe medicine. It's inexpensive. They get it. They just won't take it. Is that something you ran into in your
That's
career?
why you see so many medications that are, this is 2-in-1 or 3-in-1.
Yeah. Compounded and stuff like that. Yeah.
This is a blood pressure medicine and a cholesterol medicine, all in one.
Yeah. On the C Spire text line, my deer processor's gone up 50 cents per pound for sausage. I process all my meat except for sausage because I like the stuffed kind. He said it was because of casings in the pork fat, and they being more expensive, and insurance went up as well. Yeah. So that inflation stuff's still out there. For homeowners insurance, the roofing companies going door to door and getting people to file claims are making it go up. Well, that's true, but the insurance companies come out and do their own inspection, and they don't just take somebody's word for it that says you need a new roof. You're going to have to show that you legitimately need one. I know I tried because, okay, you're going to go up on me because you say I need a new roof, but you won't pay for a new roof, right? Which is not cheap, as you know. Man, oh man. A drug can almost be free and become repurposed, and the sky's the limit, says Jerry.
That's something I've talked about countless times.
Yeah,
the example I use is extremely dated at this point, but it's still a decent example, and it's Flexeril, because if you've ever had a bad back or muscle spasms or something like that, you probably got prescribed Flexeril.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know it was Flexeril because you got the generic, because the generic's been around longer than I've been alive.
Man.
Well, then they come out with, if you make a half dosage Flexeril,
that's right,
then it can also help with this particular back spasm. And because we discovered that this half dosage treats this particular thing, then we're going to repatent it. And now we got name brand Flexeril again.
And I totally agree. We need some reform there. There's no doubt about it. That's an issue. Keith in Meridian says, I paid $18.98 per pound on October 21st for Angus ribeyes. Yesterday they were $27 a pound. That is a major increase, a 50% increase in a month. Said I had to pass. I suspect that a lot of people are doing the same thing. So, look, on this whole insurance thing, you either believe in for-profit enterprise or you don't. Because I get it. We all love to hate them. But what's the alternative?
Everybody does without it.
Right. And I would say...
And then the large portion of the population that never uses it saves a little bit of money.
True. But there are no businesses at that point because nobody's going to loan a business any money unless they're insured. No mortgage company's going to loan you money for a house unless it's insured. They're not going to loan you money for a car unless it's insured. Now, you could say, I'm just going to pass on health insurance, and you know what? I'd be okay with that. But how about this? You sign a waiver that says you don't get any health care. You only get health care up to the amount of your assets. Liquid assets. Once you're out of assets, no more care. You can't have both. You can't say, well, I'm just not going to pay. Because, we actually had some people that we heard about third hand, I'll have to say, that just avoid buying health insurance even though they could get it for little or nothing. Why do I need that? I get free health care at the ER down the street. You know that happens. And guess who's paying for that? Me and you and all the people on our tax line. I mean, that's where we've come in this country because there's this government backstop. So what I'm saying is we got to remove the government backstop if you really want to force people to be more responsible and to drive costs down, as long as the government's the backstop, we're all going to pay. Final segment of Middays is on the other side of this break.
Think for a moment.
Bring it on! Middays with Gerard Gibert. It is on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Middays. It's our final segment of the week, and then it's Thanksgiving week. Next one. Got a short week in store for you then. Oh, gosh, Thomas. No. Oh, that's dumb, man. ICE is and does make arrests in hospitals and medical clinics now. It's extremely controversial. And you don't want ICE agents and doctors tangling up. What I was expecting was a massive deportation. That was what was talked about. That's not happening.
That's what folks voted for.
It's not happening.
Millions need to go.
Tens of millions. In fact, what we were expecting was that the military, regular military, was going to be mobilized to go hunt down everybody in the country illegal. And that means they don't have a legal status. Because remember, there's non-citizens who are legal, and then there's illegals. There is a distinction. Unfortunately, I don't know that the members of our Congress get that either, because...
Especially on the Democrat side of the
They definitely don't. So I wish they'd be more forthcoming about that.
Brown person, they must be a victim.
That's exactly right. So... and by the way, Thomas, hospitals, and we don't want them to. I don't want hospitals and medical providers getting involved in one's citizenship status. I just think that'd be killer, in my view. I don't want them doing that. They have a right to know if they can pay at some point, as they do everybody. And that different providers handle that differently. So I'm not a big fan of that. I want those people to focus on taking care of sick people, because I could see where you could have all kinds of complicated situations and people would die. But I don't have a problem posting ICE agents outside of hospitals. I don't want them in the ER itself. I certainly don't want them in the ORs and the exam rooms. I don't know that that's appropriate. But, yeah, hanging around. But, look, why aren't we going and finding them before they get to the hospitals? They're all over the place. It's ubiquitous. There are 30 million, 40 million in the country. It ain't like they're hard to find.
And in every major metropolitan area where you have reported crackdown and ICE raids, somehow the schools have a precipitous drop in the number of students showing up. Local businesses have a much lower reported crime rate. And traffic somehow clears up.
Yes.
In every single instance.
Well, this was a self-inflicted problem. All we had to do is enforce the law. But the prior administration refused to do so, because Democrats grant more preferential treatment and more deference to illegals than they do American citizens. The crux of the problem.
I can say it a lot shorter, because Democrats are stupid and worthless.
The fundamental problem is we open the doors. Now we're trying to get people to leave. That's just hard. And there are all kinds of different...
It's not hard. It's just hard to do and make it politically palatable and socially acceptable.
That's completely right. And if you start deploying ICE agents in the ERs...
If they came over in the back of a tanker truck repurposed for human trafficking, I don't think they really need the kid gloves treatment on the way out the door.
I'm for that as well. Totally agree. No, Thomas, it's not true. You got it all wrong. Again, nobody said that. What was promised was that we were going to deport illegal people. Period. End of story. And you're so hung up on the H-1B deal, you're grossly over-exceeding reality there. Overstating that. It's just not that big a deal. Yeah, exactly. Because those people are actually working and paying taxes. That's a different situation. Unbelievable. So, an insurance policy, this is true, is not supposed to be a maintenance policy, at least in the property world. I agree. My beef was, all of a sudden this year you woke up and said, oh, your roof's too old, we got to go up on your rates. I wish they'd just say, we're having a rash of claims, we got to go up on the rates. I could have believed that. It's just that, wait, it's a 30-year rated roof, and you come out and say there's nothing wrong with it. It's not like tomorrow it's going to fall apart. It's not like it's deteriorating. Could it be destroyed by an act of God, some catastrophe, tree fall? Sure, all that. And then you'd be on the hook. Hail is the most common thing around here, of course. Wind probably second as far as destruction of a roof. But it's not like your risk changed from last year to this year on that. That's what aggravated me more than anything. Like, find some other reason you got to go up on my rates than that one. That may sound good in your world, but that just didn't sit well with me. Well, we are out of time here. We had I think a very busy week of shows, but we'll be back with you again on Monday. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and most of all, stay safe, and God bless everyone.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.